After buying gifts for her parents and planning to propose, my girlfriend told me I couldn't join her for Christmas because her friend would be there. I left months later. She can't stand seeing me with someone better. This happened during Christmas of 2022, and one of my best friends told me I had to share it because it would be a perfect story. So here it goes. My then partner dumped me 3 days before Christmas. She explained that instead of taking me to the family dinner, she would take her friend. But that wasn't the worst part. My name is Daniel. I'm 27 years old. I worked in project management for a mid-sized company in Ohio. I had stayed in the same city since college. Why move if I had a good job in my own place? Plus, I had a Silverado truck in excellent condition that was fully paid off. My life wasn't exciting, but it was stable and comfortable. My Silverado was my first big purchase as an adult. I bought it used from a farmer who had cared for it like his son. It had only 40,000 miles and an impeccable maintenance history. I spent the first weekend installing a bed cover and upgrading the sound system because the original speakers sounded like they were underwater. After several relationships that ended badly, apparently being responsible is worse than acting immature, I had given up on dating. I focused on my job, the gym, and restoring an '87 Camaro I bought online. Until the summer of 2021, my friend Matthew organized a barbecue. That's where I met Lorena. Lorena was everything I thought I was looking for. An art teacher at an elementary school, with a contagious laugh and summer dresses that suited her perfectly. We connected instantly. She liked that I had stability, furniture that wasn't from IKEA, and that I knew how to plan a date without splitting an entree at a chain restaurant. For the first time, someone valued my being a responsible adult instead of considering it boring. Dating Lorena was different from the start. We talked about a future together. She asked me about renewing my lease. She mentioned that someday we might move in together and even showed enthusiasm for the Camaro. Unlike other partners who complained when I talked about cars, she brought me coffee to the garage and asked me questions about what I was doing. She even helped me sand rust off the rear fenders using borrowed overalls from her mother. Her parents accepted me immediately. Alvaro, her father, was a retired firefighter, a traditional man who taught me how to properly season a cast-iron skillet and let me help him rebuild the engine of his '76 Corvette. We spent Sundays in his garage drinking beer and talking about everything: football, tools, family. His workshop was an automotive sanctuary, clean, organized, with every tool hung in its place. Most of his tools came from his father, authentic American pieces from the '50s, sturdy and nearly indestructible. While teaching me to repair carburetors, he told me anecdotes about his career and his family. His mother, Patricia, treated me like the son she never had. She sent me food, messaged me interesting articles, and asked my opinion on everything, from the paint color for the guest room to which lawnmower Alvaro should buy. When we went out to dinner, she would pull Lorena aside to show me her garden or ask about my job. Patricia cultivated vegetables as if it were a scientific experiment. She had perfect rows, charts with harvest and growth dates. She asked me questions about soil pH and irrigation and taught me how to preserve food. We even redesigned her greenhouse together using my project management knowledge. They constantly told Lorena how lucky she was. Alvaro dropped hints about marriage, and Patricia talked about grandchildren with a smile. I genuinely loved them. In October 2022, I decided it was time. I had a $7,500 ring hidden in my sock drawer. The plan was to propose on Christmas during dessert with both families present. Everything was carefully planned. In November, I fully embraced the Christmas spirit. My family always took the holidays seriously, so I decided to organize everything in advance. It was our first Christmas as a serious couple with an engagement in sight. I started coordinating dates, booked dinner at a restaurant Lorena wanted to try after seeing it on Instagram. I booked for the night of the 24th at 7 p.m. and requested the best table with a city view. I called 3 times to be sure. Then came the gift-buying stage. During Thanksgiving dinner, Patricia casually mentioned an antique porcelain set that reminded her of her grandmother. It took me 3 weeks visiting antique shops in 2 counties, but I found 4 identical pieces. Alvaro, for his part, commented on a book about the history of firefighters. I found a first edition online. And for Lorena, I had saved for months to buy her a professional art material set. The Prismacolor Premier, with over 200 pencils and brushes. It cost almost $1,000, but seeing her excited was worth everything. I had a plan B for everything. What if it snowed? What if the restaurant canceled? What if her family's schedule changed? That's just me. I show I care by paying attention to details, remembering things, and organizing everything so it goes well. But in early December, everything started to crumble. The first sign was when I showed Lorena the porcelain pieces. I was excited. I placed them on my table like a hunter displaying his treasure. She barely looked up from her phone and said, "Oh, cool," as if I were showing her a grocery receipt. "Your mom is going to freak out when she sees them," I said, waiting for a reaction. She just muttered an "uh-huh," while continuing to scroll through Instagram. I tried not to dwell on it. She said work had her very stressed due to parent conferences and Christmas events. At first, it seemed believable. Being a teacher in December must be exhausting. She arrived exhausted, complained about demanding parents and impossible deadlines. I would prepare dinner for her and let her vent while I corrected papers in my kitchen. At first, I thought her attachment to her phone was just a way to relax after a long day. I didn't give it too much importance. Then she started mentioning Ethan, an old college friend who, she told me, had returned to the city for a job at a startup. At first they were sporadic comments. "Ethan says I should travel more," or "Ethan thinks this place is too small for creative people." I wasn't alarmed. It's normal to reconnect with old friends. But soon, every conversation revolved around him. Ethan believes I should take more risks with my art. Ethan says small towns kill dreams. Ethan has 1,000 stories from when he lived in Chicago. It turned out he worked for one of those alternative coffee companies that sell artisanal blends to hipster coffee shops. Definitely the type who strongly opines on brewing methods and owns more flannel shirts than a lumberjack. Lorena couldn't stop talking about his creative energy, how inspiring he seemed, and all the countries he had visited before turning 30. She started commenting regretfully that she had never left Ohio. Although I'm not the jealous type, I began to notice certain signs. During dinner, she was constantly on her phone, and when I asked about her day, she answered evasively. She stopped specifying who she was going out with, and only said she was going to see some friends. Everything became even blurrier when, on December 15th, I tried to confirm our reservations for Christmas dinner. She told me maybe we should leave things more open this year. Open how? She replied that perhaps we should be less structured and more spontaneous. By then the signs were clear, but I wanted to believe she was just stressed about the holidays. How wrong I was. On December 22nd, 3 days before Christmas, I was in the living room wrapping the last gifts. I had organized them by groups, her family, mine, our friends. I had everything arranged like a logistical Christmas operation. It was then that she walked in with that expression we all recognize. "We need to talk." I knew something serious was coming. I thought she wanted to adjust schedules, reorganize something, but no. She sat on the sofa and, with a hesitant voice, dropped the bombshell. "I'm taking Ethan to the family Christmas dinner instead of you." I froze. I literally dropped the ribbon I was tying on the gift I was holding. I had to ask her to repeat what she had said, because my mind refused to process it. "What did you just say?" I asked. She nervously took a breath. "I know it's a terrible time to say it, but Ethan and I have been talking." She tried to explain that everything between us felt too rigid, as if we were following a script, that with Ethan, everything felt more natural, more free. I put the gift aside. Ironically, it was for her. It was clear she had been thinking about this for a while. She said she tried to find the right time to talk about it, but never did. Her voice cracked as if she were the one suffering. "You always think of everything," she said through tears. "The reservations, the details, how you remember what my family says. That should make me feel loved, but I feel trapped. Trapped by someone who cared for her. Trapped by someone who planned a shared future." She said Ethan wasn't like that. He simply lived in the moment. And that's when she delivered the final blow. "I saw the ring box in your drawer last week. I know what you were planning for Christmas dinner." I was stunned. "You went through my things?" I was looking for my phone charger and I saw it. Daniel, I'm only 25. I'm too young to get engaged. Can you imagine how awkward it would have been if I had had to reject you in front of our families? Then she added, as if she were doing me a favor. Honestly, I'm saving you from a humiliation. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A favor. She said that this way, we could both get out of it without public embarrassment. Very considerate of you, I replied with sarcasm. She was crying openly, but it was the crying of someone who knew their plan wasn't working out as expected. She claimed Ethan wasn't pressuring her. He just enjoyed the present. When I reminded her of the gifts, the reservations, her family's expectation, she replied, I'll handle it. They'll understand. And maybe it's for the best. We want different things, Daniel. I need someone who doesn't have every step planned on a spreadsheet. I could have tried to convince her. I could have reminded her how much she liked my way of organizing everything before Captain Spontaneity showed up. But I didn't. Something inside me just shut down, like when someone suggests a terrible idea in a meeting, and you, out of politeness, decide not to respond. I stood up, gathered all the gifts I had bought for her family, and carefully placed them on the coffee table. Give these to your parents. They deserve them, even if I'm not there to see them open them. She looked at me as if she didn't recognize me. You're making this much harder than it needs to be. No, I'm making it as hard as you made it. I went to my room, took her travel bag from the closet, where she kept her things when she stayed over, and handed it to her. I opened the front door. Can we still be friends? She asked with the bag in her hand. I looked at her calmly. You made your decision, Lorena. I'm not going to argue or help you feel better after what you did. She cried more, but not out of remorse. It was frustration at not being in control of the situation. Welcome to the club. After she left, I stayed on the sofa for about 10 minutes in silence until I reacted. I called my best friend Gabriel and told him, I need to get out of here. What happened? You sound like they announced another Matrix movie, he said. Lorena dumped me 3 days before Christmas for Ethan. Silence. The college idiot with the bow tie and the artisanal coffee. Are you kidding me? He said. 20 minutes later, I was at his house with a bag of clothes. He had his console ready and a cooler full of drinks, as if he were prepared for a post-breakup emergency operation. And yes, Christmas at Gabriel's house turned out to be much better than I imagined. While loading the game, he said, So, the spontaneous princess couldn't stand being with someone who has their life together and traded you for a supermarket Ryan Gosling? She said you were too structured, that you planned everything. Right. How terrible that someone remembers her birthday and doesn't live in his mom's basement eating frozen food. He handed me the controller. Did you tell her about the ring? He asked. She found it in my drawer. She said by leaving me before I could propose, she was doing me a favor. Gabriel paused the game and stared at me. I'm sorry. Seriously? Those were her exact words? He said incredulously. Exactly. Bro, I've heard a lot of crazy things in my life, but that takes the grand prize. He resumed the game and was immediately eliminated, apparently by a 12-year-old kid. You know what this means, right? He continued, restarting the match. You just dodged a bullet the size of a spacecraft. Imagine marrying someone who considers caring about her a flaw. Gabriel's apartment was the perfect example of a bachelor pad. A 75-inch TV mounted on the wall, gamer chairs that looked like they were straight out of a race car, and enough consoles to stock an entire store. In the kitchen, barely a microwave, a mini fridge, and a coffee maker. Why complicate things? The guy had his priorities straight and zero hang-ups about living like a big kid who pays his bills. We spent Christmas Eve playing video games and eating frozen snacks while mocking strangers online. Every time the situation with Lorena crossed my mind, Gabriel would drop some absurd comment or a joke that made me laugh, despite everything. You know it's going to be the best thing, he said, laughing around 2 a.m. as we lost another match. She's going to spend Christmas explaining to her family why she traded a guy like you for a detox juice influencer. That made me genuinely laugh. Her dad is going to hate him, I added. Alvaro is going to eat him alive. I give him 2 hours before he starts interrogating Ethan about his 5-year plan just to make him uncomfortable. Christmas morning, I woke up early out of habit. I made coffee, went for a walk around Gabriel's neighborhood, and then called my parents. They weren't surprised when I told them about the breakup. According to them, they already had their doubts about Lorena, but preferred not to say anything while they saw me happy. She always seemed to be looking for something more, my mother told me, as if it were just a phase until something more exciting came along. Thanks for the timely warning, I said sarcastically. Around noon, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. The first message was from Lorena. My mom keeps asking about you, and I don't know what to tell her. Then another one. Ethan tries, but he doesn't understand our traditions. And later that afternoon, the tea set you gave my mom made her cry. She said it was the nicest gift she's ever received. During dinner, her parents started texting me directly. Daniel, Patricia, and I are furious with Lorena for what she did to you. You didn't deserve that. Your gifts were incredible, and it breaks our hearts that you're not here. You will always be part of our family. Patricia sent me a long text. Honey, I don't understand what happened to our daughter. To us, you are still family. That Ethan guy is rude and arrogant. We already told him so. We love you very much and are so sorry for what happened. They even sent me photos. Patricia using the tea set, Alvaro reading the book I gave him. Clearly they were trying to show Lorena everything she had wasted. One of Alvaro's messages included an image of him glaring at Ethan during dinner while Ethan tried to justify why he wouldn't eat meat. Apparently, Mr. Spontaneity was also Mr. Vegan, which did not go over well with a retired firefighter who didn't consider a meal complete without at least 2 types of meat. The last message of the night was again from Lorena. I think I made a mistake. Can we talk after the holidays? I read all the messages, wrote replies, deleted them, and put my phone on airplane mode. She had made a decision, and I wasn't going to be the one to help her feel better about that choice. 2 weeks later, she called me around 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Her voice sounded broken, as if she had been crying for hours. Daniel, I need to talk to you, she said, sobbing. Ethan left, I replied emotionlessly. He only came for the holidays. He didn't want anything serious. He went back to Chicago. Her voice broke even more. I destroyed everything we had for someone who was just playing with me. What a surprise. No one saw that coming, except everyone else. Please don't be cruel. I'm falling apart, and you're being cold. And what did you expect? You chose the guy who lives in the moment over the one who thought about the future. It turns out living in the moment was just an excuse not to commit. Apparently, Ethan had always been clear. He would only be there for 6 weeks to help with a temporary coffee shop. He never planned to stay or build anything serious. He just went back to his real life in Chicago. For weeks, she kept calling. She left increasingly desperate voice messages. Then her friends started contacting me, as if forming a sort of reconciliation committee. First, Naira. Lorena is very upset. She misses you terribly. She knows she was wrong and has learned from it. Then Carla. She's been crying since New Year's. Couldn't you at least talk to her? She needs closure. You're being very cruel. Meanwhile, Gabriel was sending me screenshots of her Instagram posts with comments like, "Wow, someone discovered profound quotes on Pinterest. This is the same person who said you were too intense, yet she seems quite overwhelmed by her own drama now." Her profile became a festival of melancholic phrases like, "Do you realize what you had when you've already lost it?" accompanied by photos of her with a sad gaze in coffee shops. One day, Gabriel even commented on one of her photos with the phrase, "I feel lost in this big world." His suggested follow-up, "Maybe you should try a GPS and a therapist." I nearly choked on my laughter. By March, the calls stopped. I heard through acquaintances that she had moved back in with her parents and started therapy. Honestly, I was glad for her. I hope she manages to fix whatever led her to ruin her life that way. For my part, I decided to focus on truly living instead of just planning it. I signed up for photography classes on weekends, which led me to take trips around Ohio, exploring state parks and small towns. I also started training more regularly. The photography classes were at a community center downtown, taught by a veteran photographer who worked for newspapers when that was still a stable profession. I learned to use manual mode with an old Nikon from my grandfather that had been stored for years. I documented the restoration process of my Camaro, which turned into a photo series about classic cars and working-class pride. Some of those images were even selected for a local exhibition. At work, I was also doing excellent. The organizational skills that Lorena considered overwhelming turned out to be valuable. I got promoted. The promotion came with a better salary and my own office with windows, something I didn't have before. I started leading bigger projects, coordinating teams, managing timelines and budgets for entire shopping centers. But the best part was finally fulfilling one of my dreams. I bought a 2018 Harley Sportster. It had some details, but its frame was intact. I spent many weekends in Gabriel's garage disassembling and rebuilding that old motorcycle piece by piece. One Saturday afternoon, while adjusting the carburetor, he threw one of his usual lines at me. "Do you know what they call a motorcycle that won't start?" he asked with a mocking grin. "A super expensive paperweight with trust issues like my love life, but with more noise." That was Gabriel, always cracking bad jokes. But there was something truly therapeutic about working with my hands. Every time that engine roared, I felt like I was recovering a piece of what Lorena had tried to take from me: self-confidence. I started going out much more with the guys. We went to a downtown sports bar, played pool, and watched March Madness games. Being surrounded by people who didn't overanalyze every gesture or word, who simply enjoyed the moment, felt like a breath of fresh air. It was during that time that I met Valerie, thanks to a hiking group I had joined. She was the complete opposite of Lorena in the aspects that truly mattered. Where Lorena was impulsive and scattered, Valerie was thoughtful and stable. Where one sought constant excitement, the other valued building something lasting. Most importantly, she appreciated the things Lorena had always criticized about me. "I love that you remember the details," she told me when we were planning our third date. "It makes me feel like I genuinely matter." Valerie chose her career out of a genuine desire to help others, not some need to fulfill an artistic fantasy. She had grown up on a farm outside Columbus. She knew how to fix things when they broke. She understood the importance of hard work and planning for the future. She could maneuver a truck with a trailer, change a tire, and cook a dinner from scratch without needing a cardboard box. Plus, she was fascinated by the Harley and wanted to learn how to ride it. On our first Christmas together, she was excited to do everything right. "I want to meet your family, and I want you to meet mine," she told me while we were choosing a tree. "Mine always leaves everything until the last minute, and I've always wanted to experience having everything planned in advance." "Are you sure?" "I get too excited about Christmas preparations," I warned her with a smile. She laughed and kissed me. "Promise me you'll do it this time." We were in a store buying decorations when my phone rang, a message from an unknown number. "Hi, it's Lorena. I know it's been a while, but I wanted to say hello. I'm doing much better, and I'd love to talk, maybe grab a coffee." I showed the message to Valerie. She read it and asked, "Do you want to reply?" I thought for 2 seconds. "No." I deleted the message, and we continued discussing whether gold or silver tinsel would look better in the living room. "Good choice," Valerie commented. "Gold matches your sofa better." And then came the ambush at the Christmas party. Our friend Matthew hosts one every year at his house. Valerie and I arrived a little late, as usual. Everything was going well. I felt calm until I saw her. Lorena by the punch table, checking her phone every 30 seconds as if waiting for a taxi. Valerie saw her right away. "That's her," she said. "Yeah, and she looks as lost as I imagined." While I was talking to Matthew about his new job, I felt a presence behind me. I turned around, and there was Lorena with a forced smile, holding her drink like a shield. "Daniel, I didn't know you were coming tonight. You look very good, healthy." I put my arm around Valerie's waist. "Hello, Lorena. This is Valerie, my girlfriend." Valerie extended her hand with a genuine smile. "Nice to meet you. I know Daniel and you have history. It's a pleasure." Lorena ignored her hand completely, looked her up and down, and repeated her name as if it tasted bitter. Valerie, right? I've been thinking about us, Lorena said in a forced tone. About what we had, about the plans we made. That was a long time ago, I replied calmly. I've moved on. But don't you miss it? What we used to have, how you organized everything for both of us. She only looked at me as if Valerie didn't exist, but Valerie didn't stay silent. Daniel has been wonderful. He's helping my mother perfect the family Christmas rib recipe and found incredible gifts for my nephews. I don't know how he remembers what everyone wants, but it's something I love about him. Lorena's face went through several emotions in seconds: surprise, anger, jealousy, before settling into pure hostility. How nice, she said in a sickeningly sweet voice. Of course, it's easy to value someone when you haven't yet had to deal with his obsessive need to control everything. Just give it time. Excuse me? What did you say? Valerie replied, taking a step forward. Please, Lorena said, completely losing her composure. Can we talk alone, without her? No, I interrupted. Have a good night, Lorena. Are you serious? Are you going to choose her instead of what we had? I did that 13 months ago, when you decided it for both of us. But it was a mistake. I was scared. I was young and I did something stupid. Her voice rose. You can't replace me with just any stranger. Valerie and I started walking toward the exit. I stopped for a moment and looked at her one last time. The next time someone plans a Christmas with you, try not to tell them 3 days before that they are uninvited to their own proposal. And that's when she lost control. Are you serious right now? She screamed from the other side of the room. Are you just going to leave like that after everything we shared? The whole place fell silent. Valerie squeezed my hand. We kept walking, but Lorena didn't stop. She doesn't know you like I do. She's just a rebound. She'll never understand what you and I had. Her friends, Naira and Carla, ran from across the room, trying to calm her down. Lorena, stop! You're making a spectacle, Naira whispered through clenched teeth. I don't care. He's making a huge mistake and everyone knows it. As they were practically dragging her out, Carla shot us a scornful look. Very classy, Daniel. Bringing some random girl just to hurt Lorena. And seriously, you downgraded? She added scornfully once outside. Valerie squeezed my hand again. Well, that was more dramatic than I expected. For me or for her? Definitely for her. She looked like she was watching her future walk away. Maybe so, but she's not my problem anymore. The rest of the party was great. After that, we planned what to do for New Year's. We talked about possible vacation destinations. We just enjoyed being together without drama. By summer, my life was better than I ever imagined. The restoration of the Harley was finished. Gabriel and I had transformed that dilapidated Sportster into a machine worthy of a magazine cover. Every Saturday we rode around Ohio, visiting small towns and hidden bars, just enjoying the freedom. You know what's funny? Gabriel asked me one weekend while we were having lunch at a place whose name I couldn't even pronounce. A year ago, you were organizing Christmas dinner with a crazy woman, and now you live like you're part of a Bruce Springsteen song. I call it personal evolution. Valerie moved into my apartment in April, and the transition was so smooth it seemed like she had always lived there. She cooked like she had graduated from a culinary school. She loved going to the gym with me. Most surprisingly, she never got annoyed when I disappeared for a while to work on the bike or spend time with the guys. She would just smile and say, "Enjoy it, honey." Then she would post a story on Instagram saying how much she loved seeing me do what I was passionate about. Her profile looked like a tribute to our relationship, but not in a bad way. Photos of us hiking, me working on the Harley, cooking together on weekends. The captions were always things like, "Seeing him follow his passions makes me fall in love all over again." Her friends commented on how lucky she was to have found someone with stability and direction. And that's when everything started getting strange again. We discovered that Lorena, my ex, had been spying on us for months through fake social media accounts. Valerie started receiving messages from profiles with no photos and no clear threats, but with passive-aggressive phrases like, "Enjoy it while it lasts," or "Some people only know how to steal the happiness of others." It was clear that these accounts were created solely to pry into our lives. One of those accounts even messaged Valerie, insinuating that she should investigate my past and ask me what really happened with my ex. Valerie showed me the screenshots, and at first, we found it pathetic. But Lorena soon moved past the virtual into real-life harassment. She started showing up in the parking lot of my workplace, just watching the building from her car like it was a poorly written drama movie. Security had to escort her off the premises on 2 occasions. She even called my colleagues to ask them to talk some sense into me, because according to her, I was making a grave mistake. The building has cameras everywhere, so we had recordings of her sitting for hours in front of the entrance. The security staff already recognized her car and would notify me as soon as they saw her. My boss, uncomfortable with the situation, even offered me a few days off. Imagine the embarrassment of trying to be professional while your ex turns your office into her surveillance base. And if that wasn't enough, she also called Gabriel. One night while we were working on his car, he told me, "Your ex called me yesterday. She wanted me to convince you that Valerie isn't the right one and that you're making a huge mistake." "What did you tell her?" "The usual. That Valerie doesn't really know you, that you're in a rebound phase, and that you'll realize it when the excitement wears off." Then he smiled. I told her that at least Valerie doesn't need a restraining order to understand what boundaries are. The final straw came when she started leaving comments on our engagement photos with those fake accounts, calling Valerie a substitute or rebound relationship. Soon her allies Naira and Carla joined in, leaving sad emojis and childish comments like, "This won't last," as if we were 13. Then she started leaving gifts at my doorstep. White flowers accompanied by sappy notes like, "Remembering what we had," or "Some loves never die." Valerie was uneasy, and so was I. It was time to take legal action. I filed a restraining order prohibiting her from approaching within 150 meters of me, Valerie, our home, my work, or any place where we could reasonably be expected to be. I thought that would put an end to everything. I was wrong. One Friday night in late February 2024, Valerie, Gabriel, and I were home, in the middle of an epic Mario Kart tournament. Valerie was crushing us ruthlessly and gloating like she was born for it, and then we heard loud banging on the door. "Daniel, I know you're in there," a clearly intoxicated voice yelled. It was Lorena, totally drunk. "Valerie isn't better than me. You're making the biggest mistake of your life." While I reached for the phone to call the police, Gabriel stood up and went straight to the intercom. "Wait," he said with a smile. "Let me handle this. I've been waiting for this moment." He pressed the button. "Hello, Lorena. Do you remember me? It's Gabriel, your ex's best friend." "Gabriel, tell Daniel to come out," she screamed. "He can't. He's busy being happy, but thanks for confirming you're completely out of control." "I'm not leaving until I talk to him." "Perfect. The police will be here in about 5 minutes. Unless the orange uniform looks flattering on you, I suggest you practice your cardio." Valerie was filming the whole scene, partly for safety, but also because Gabriel's performance was simply memorable. And to top it off, Gabriel added playfully, "The next time you want to call someone at midnight, order a pizza instead. At least someone will want to show up at your house." When the police arrived, she was sitting on the steps, crying and mumbling incoherently about how she just wanted to talk, how Valerie had stolen her life, and how I wasn't the same anymore. The neighbors, of course, were all outside watching the spectacle like it was a free play. As the patrol car drove her away, Gabriel looked at us and let out a sigh. "Well, that was noisy. Anyone want pizza?" I never heard from her again. I was told she had moved to Portland to start over, though I'm not sure if she ever truly understood what that meant. What I do know is that since that night, everything changed for the better. Valerie and I continued building our life together, step by step. Not everything was perfect, of course. We had our arguments, disagreements, and gray days. But there was something about her that always brought me back to calm. Her way of looking at me, as if she knew that despite everything, we were heading in the same direction. We decided to get married in a simple ceremony, surrounded by people who truly mattered, without excessive luxuries or obligation invitations. Gabriel was there, of course, with his usual humor and a smile that didn't hide his pride. His speech was short, direct. And for once, he didn't joke about my past. He just said, "I've never seen him so peaceful." That was enough. We didn't use the Harley as a getaway vehicle, as was the initial idea. Instead, we rented an old truck and went on a road trip along the coast, with no fixed destination, no reservations, no maps, just her and me. At a gas station at sunset, Valerie looked at me from the passenger seat and said, "Sometimes the only thing needed to heal is to not look back." And she was right. It wasn't about revenge or proving anything to anyone. It was about closing cycles, learning and moving forward, not repeating patterns, and choosing. This time, from a place of calm. Today, when I think about everything that happened, I don't feel resentment, just gratitude. Because even the most chaotic stories can push you towards the life you truly deserve.